Today, I want to talk about one of the most common questions that I get all the time, and that is how do I get my kid to stop talking? Now, people with ADHD often talk a lot. I know I do. I get going, and sometimes I don't stop. So I get it. And my kids are talkers, mainly my oldest one, but my youngest, when they get on a topic that they absolutely love, they can go forever. So when you're on the 11th hour of hearing about Fortnite or Minecraft or dinosaurs or whatever it is that they're hyper focused on, it can make you just want to scream, just like shut up. You can't handle it. Your brain is getting so fried just from, hearing constant talking after you've had a long day, when you have a ton of things on your mind, where you're trying to concentrate on, getting dinner or getting them ready in the morning or that kind of thing. So it's one of the most hardest things for parents to tolerate. And I've had many parents come to me and that with the fact that their kids just constantly talk. And what can we do about it? Because it is exhausting. If you, the parent, have autism, ADHD, any kind of sensory processing, anything like that, if you're neurodivergent and you're already overstimulated, you are ready to just explode. You're already on the edge. But honestly, your kid is not doing this to annoy you, even though it seems like that, and even though you can ask them 100 times to stop and they don't. And you also don't want to discourage them from talking to you, and you don't want them to make them feel bad about being a talker. But there are times and places, and there's times when you need some peace and quiet. So first, we have to understand why your kid talks excessively and what it has to do with ADHD. And once you know some of the biology behind it, it can help you take a step to be, more patient and be able to handle this habit successfully. So here's a couple of reasons why kids with ADHD and adults as well talk excessively. When kids are younger and even older, if you have that H part of this, the hyperactivity part, when they get excited, they just keep going and they're going, right? So um, it could be just excitement. It's the ability to not really regulate, to self-regulate, to manage any sensory inputs or process emotions, self-soothe. So sometimes, and if there is autism involved, sometimes there's vocal stimming, which is more, instead of talking, just more like repeating something over and over again or a noise or whatever. Um, but that's one of the reasons behind that. Another reason is anxiety because they worry that they're going to forget what they want to say or they have something that they want to input into the conversation, and they start getting anxious because they want to do this before they forget, and that just adds to the talking. In an ADHD brain, time is either now or not now. There's no in between, which is called time blindness. It's the inability to feel time, to see time, to understand how time moves. Also, if they are impulsive, they are going to talk a lot because it's difficult for them to think before they speak. So those are the kids that talk a lot and say things that are probably not appropriate or out of place or just something that you wouldn't say, comes into the brain and out the mouth before it actually goes through any kind of filter. So trying to stop their brain is like trying to stop a runaway train with bicycle brakes because it's a recipe for failure. The brakes will fail most of the time because they are just speeding through. Their thoughts are speeding through and coming out their mouth so fast that they don't even have time to process really what they're saying. Another one is they may not be that great at reading nonverbal cues. They may not see that this is a bad time or see that you're getting annoyed or upset. Um, Not understanding the social dynamics of a relationship is often hard, especially when they're younger. It's something that we have to work on and help our kids with that skill because it's often very hard to look at somebody and understand their body language. And if you've got autism thrown in there, it makes it uh, more difficult. My youngest has a hard time reading people, and if they're sad, happy, that kind of thing, we're working on that. If it's very subtle, it's very hard. They're also very literal, so if you say something, you have to make sure that you are saying it very literally because they will take just what you said and go off of that. They don't add any inferences or anything like that into it. So they don't always get those signs. Also, poor listening skills. Really, they just want to talk and they want to get that out, and they don't always have that kind of uh, social understanding of how conversations go. So they will talk and not know that there's times when you let other people talk and then you don't take over the conversation, that kind of thing. Um, that is still very hard for me. I get really excited when somebody's talking about something that I can relate to, which is often misunderstood by neurotypical people, like that you're either bragging or you're just like one-upping somebody, but really it's a way that ADHD people try to connect with other people by saying, "Oh my gosh, yes, you did this and same thing happened to me," and you tell them that you're experiencing, and to the ADHD person, you are relating to that person, you are understanding them, you're showing empathy. But if you're a neurotypical person, oftentimes you will think that that person is um, self-centered or trying to take over the conversation or trying to one up you. So if you are neurotypical and you're watching this, that's one of the reasons that happens with ADHD people. So uh, remember that because it can get frustrating for people that don't have ADHD, and a lot of people won't hang around you if you are constantly doing that. So it can be a process. So how do we manage when our kids are just talking, 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 talking? Well, we have to definitely, the number one thing I always talk to people about is self-regulation, emotional regulation. ADHD is a deficit in being able to self-regulate, to be able to control impulses. So off the bat, your kid, depending on their age, the younger they are, the harder it is for them. And if they are young, it's a great time to start teaching these skills with them, how to teach healthy communication skills, what to do in conversations, uh, things that you may say that might hurt other people's feelings, especially if you have a kid that has autism as well. Like I said, they are very realistic, very literal. They are blunt. They will say what they see, say it like it is. And there's a lot of humans out there that don't really appreciate being told the truth or anything remotely near it. So these are skills to work on with your kid. So the first step is just talking about it. Talking about the situation. maybe it just happened and you were in a situation where your kid was just talking, 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 and was not giving the other person any time inside the conversation as well. Now, you don't do this when they are actively in that situation. We want to wait until everybody is calm and focused, and that way they'll be ready to listen. So you start to just by addressing about talking and blurting out and talk to them about different ways of communicating and come up with then you can start to come up with a plan to reduce the excessive talking. So if it's my oldest was younger, if they were talking too much in the conversation and I was reading other people's um, nonverbal cues, I would have a word or I would just like touch their arm or something to just to signal to them that it might be time to take a breath and let some other people get into the conversation. Because usually they're not aware that they're doing this. I mean, I was just the other day, I was talking to somebody and I realized afterwards, I'm like, I think I took that whole conversation up and talked about everything that was going on with me, and I didn't ask them any questions. And I felt bad about that. And I had to be okay with it and let it go. But at the time, I was just chatting and whatever the subject was. So again, even older people don't always know that they're doing this. And so if you are coming up with some kind of a plan on this, they have to be part of the plan. It'll be more successful if they are part of the plan. So some of the ways that you can curb excessive talking, you can use some of these approaches. So again, that nonverbal cue. So I would touch my kid or say a code word or something, so that would let my kid know that they were dominating the conversation and we had to kind of rein it in and let somebody else have a chance to speak. Uh, Also teaching them count to 3. So trying to encourage your kid to learn how to pause and count to 3 in their head after someone finishes speaking, and then take a breath before responding. So not just as soon as that person stops talking, diving into that conversation. And again, this is not going to just happen overnight. It is going to take a lot to be able to work on this because it is about self regulating. And that is a hard thing for people with ADHD. You can also provide other outlets to do that. If they have extra energy or thoughts, you can offer some kind of a distraction. Maybe it's tactile, maybe it's auditory, chewing gum, thinking putty, listening to audiobooks, anything like that can help them kind of get that sensory or mental stimulation that they're seeking. Because a lot of times um, people talk, ADHD people talk to get a dopamine burst. That's why I have to talk to people when I'm driving, like long distances, because one of the things that happens is when you get bored and you have ADHD, you will have an onset of um, tiredness. So you get bored and you basically just get unbelievably tired, which is not a good thing when you're driving. So um, I have to either be talking to someone or be have some music that I'm singing really loud with or anything like that. Because otherwise I will get really, really tired. Um, or super distracted by my own thoughts and not know where I am. So that's another thing. A big thing is role playing. I always say role playing. That's going to be how your kid will learn what to do, where it will become kind of like muscle memory, is practice taking turns, having a conversation, and um, you talk for a while, then your kid talks for a while. You can teach your kid how to have active listening skills by, showing your kid how to look like you're interested and you're nodding your head, or if they, ask a question that will clarify what they're speaking so that, that person knows that they're listening, and helping to ensure that when they speak, there's an equal amount of time as the person that they're speaking with. So that is one of the best ways. Any kind of playing is really the best way to implement things. I still do it with my kids in their teens, young adults, and we will go over conversations that maybe they're going to have, or how they could have dealt with the situation differently. So, you can also use like incentives and a reward system, kind of like making it a game, um, where you can have like a token or check marks, whatever, something that your kid will be part of planning, where they earn, points or rewards for waiting their turn, for not interrupting. So if they, um, talk your ear off constantly when you're trying to make dinner, you can maybe set up it so that it's a game that if they get so many points for not interrupting you, um, then they, I don't know, get something extra time on the iPad if you do that, or I will give you, 15 minutes to sit and just info dump to me, and I won't say anything. I'll let you just talk. Um, my youngest is big on info dumping, and when they were younger, they would always find the adult in the area because they wanted to have adult conversations. Like, they wanted to share their information with adults, and adults, a lot of times, especially if you're not your kid, were more patient and let them do that. So, I they would we'd be in a restaurant, and they'd go over and sit at a table where there was somebody sitting by themselves, and just have a conversation about anything. Or we were at a dog park, and I'm looking for my kid, and they're over under a tree with an adult having this whole conversation. And to be honest, I think it's a great thing that my kids have these conversations, and feel comfortable talking with all sorts of people in all ages. And I have been complimented that they are some of the nicest kids to talk to as an adult, because they will talk to adults. They won't just be like, "Ugh, they will have full on conversations. And I think it's a great skill to be able to communicate well with another person. So it's always been one of my things since they were young to understand emotions, know what they're called, have emotional intelligence, be able to communicate well with other people, um, whether it's speaking, writing, that kind of thing. Being able to communicate well is a very useful skill for pretty much everybody. So, as with any skill, you want to make sure that you practice, 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 practice. It will require a lot of modeling and assistance from you. So, again, our kids are always watching us. So, if you make sure that you are modeling the behavior that you want your kids to do, because I'm telling you, ADHD, especially autistic kids, will call you out when you do something that you've told them not to do. They will totally call you out. My kids do it to me all the time. So it's very important to practice and to model the behavior that you want to see. It's also important to give your kid frequent and immediate feedback about their behavior and let them know what they're doing well. So if you go through making dinner, and your kid does not come up and start talking to you, make sure you are aware of that and you make them aware that you noticed. A lot of bad behavior can be eliminated by not focusing on that and focusing on the things that they're doing right. So we're always focusing on keep your room clean, right? One of the things that moms always talk to me about. And when I focus on the cleanliness, when my kids do clean it, when they do their laundry, when they do something that I would like them to do that they often don't, I make sure that I always notice it and give them feedback and praise them for what they've done without any input from me, not nagging, not anything. So it's very important because the more you do that, the more they will look for opportunities to get that feedback from you. Now, I want to talk about how do we cope while you're working on this skill, or when your kids just are not stopping no matter what you do. So the first thing is to be able to set boundaries and give yourself some space. One of the things I never did when my kids were younger was really have any boundaries for myself, and so I just always was um, doing for my kids, or I just didn't set a hard no. So just yesterday, my kid said to me, we had been gone for hours because the kids wanted to get manicures, and of course they were these complicated manicures, and so it took us a couple of hours, and we got home and everybody was hungry, and my kid said, can you make me mac and cheese? And I said, you know how to make mac and cheese. You can do that. I'm not going to make you mac and cheese while you sit upstairs and play games. You're 17. So they said, okay, I can give it a try. And then they came down and they realized that they had some frozen mac and cheese, like dinners that they liked. And they're like, you know what? I'm just going to do that. I'm like, great. Whatever you're going to do, you're feeding yourself. Before, I would drop everything. I would make it. I would, even if I didn't want to and I was mad or whatever. Um, so handing over things more to my kids and setting boundaries has been stuff that I have been doing much more of, especially as they've gotten older. Also, create a quiet zone, a quiet space in your house, and then that when anybody is in that um, zone, you are not talking, or if you do, you speak quietly. So when my kids were younger, we had like a calm down spot where we just kind of like had this little pop-up fort thing, and I put all sorts of different things depending on what they were interested in at the time in there, and they could do that. They could go to that place and they could be quiet. Um, because it is important for them to learn how to just be chill, be quiet with themselves, practice being silent, um, learning how to quiet your mind and be mindful is an amazing tool. I know a lot of people are so sick of hearing about mindfulness and all this kind of stuff, but it is something that is extremely important to learn, extremely helpful uh, to give you a better outlook on things, to lessen your stress. You don't have to get all woo woo about it and be like, okay, I'm going to now meditate for 45 minutes or anything like that. It doesn't have to be that. It can be small little moments um, to practice that. And teaching your kids how to do that is an amazing gift. Um, so also finding some healthy outlets for yourself. So we all need our own space. And it's harder, I will say, when your kids are younger, because if your kids are like mine, they followed you everywhere and they would not give you a moment's peace. But if you are feeling overwhelmed, figure out ways that help you recharge and get some quiet time, help you express yourself. So it could be, I love just going and taking a walk. And if it can't be like a really long walk, just doing the loop in my neighborhood is enough to make me kind of get back to a level head. Um, if you have a friend that you want to talk to, if you can talk to that friend and it's not going to get you more agitated, because then you get into these like bitch fest and you start going, that's great. If you have a favorite hobby, even just those like coloring books, those are fun. Just anything that you can do, and it's good to have some that you for multiple time frames. So if it's like a quick thing, you need 5 minutes. I'll go get the mail. I'll walk down and go get the mail and come back. Um, if it's a longer thing, you can do something that requires more time. Even just putting on some music and just listening to an upbeat song. I have playlists for different moods. And so those are good to have when you are just not having a good time and you want to pump yourself up or be angry and scream and yell, or be sad and cry, like whatever. You can do that. So as I've said before, many, many times before, parenting is like running a marathon. It is not a sprint. It is a long distance event, and it's going to take a lot of patience, a lot of persistence, a lot of practice to make it through the whole race. Now, parenting is always a marathon. You're always going to be a parent. You're always going to have your kids. But there is a point where your presence is going to be needed less. And so that's kind of where we're aiming for when I'm talking about a marathon. We're aiming for that, where they become an adult and they actually don't need you as much for every little thing. So take some of these tips, try them out this week. Talk to your kid about healthy communications, ways to talk. Talk about some of your boundaries and what you'll do if you get overstimulated. Tell your kids what you do already if that happens. I often tell my kids, like, if it was me, these are some of the things I've tried in the past that have helped me. Maybe you want to try one of those to see if it does. If you don't like any of those, then you can come up with something for yourself. But at least if they're like, well, I don't know what to do or anything, you can give them kind of a jumping off point. You're not saying this is what you have to do, but these are some of the things that you can try. So, and if you are interested in learning more about how your kids' brains are wired, and you can get more tools like this that will stick without those power struggles and the screaming matches, then you can check out the next update. I don't know what I'm saying. The next upcoming free webinar that I'm having, how to stop the daily battles and finally connect with your ADHD kid. It goes over the exact 3 shifts I made to help my family with all of these different things, reducing the chaos that's in my neurodivergent household. It also goes over some of the common mistakes that parents make when we're parenting our ADHD kids. So it's got a lot of information in there if you want to check it out. It is only 25 minutes long. It is ADHD friendly. So the link is, I'll put it in the comments, but it's also in the group profile or about, I think. And there is a free gift just for registering. I have a quiet time activity guide that I created. So it has activities to keep your kid busy while you're watching this, or just in general. Summer's here. There's got stuff for toddlers all the way up to tweens, and then they got some activities that, pretty much depending on your kid and your kid and what they can handle. There are other activities that you can do in general. So go on over, go up, go in the comments, register, give yourself some grace today. I'm hoping that I will see you inside the webinar, but either way, I hope that you have an amazing day, amazing rest of the week. If you do have any questions, or if you want to share wins, which I absolutely love as well, you can drop them in the group or you can drop them in the comments below this video. I will see either one. And so have a great rest of the day. And as always, keep moving forward.